Michael Burry's been in the news because he's doing something unusual. He's been buying stocks. Now, he's better known for predicting market crashes than market rallies. So in this video, we look at the evidence of which stocks he's been buying, potential reasons why, but also consider whether we should copy what he does. Now, don't forget, if you do enjoy our content, please do like this video and subscribe to our channel. So let's look at which stocks Michael Burry's been buying in a bit more detail. Now, Michael Burry's made some great calls in the past, particularly with the dot-com bubble and the global financial crisis. These are two periods when he went short and profited from stock prices falling. He also made some money during the bounce back periods, but that's what he's known for, his big short positions and predicting when markets are about to crash. And because of those great short calls, people pay a lot of attention to his portfolio. And you can actually track that with the 13F filings, the regulatory filings for his fund, which is called Scion Asset Management. So for example, if you look at this tweet beside me from Joe Weisenthal, you can see that at the moment he's made some fairly controversial calls by buying things like regional bank stocks. However, there are some drawbacks with the method by which we can figure out what it is he's buying, these 13F filings. The first problem is that we only know what someone's doing after they've done it. So these have to be filed every quarter, and usually they're filed within 45 days of the end of the quarter. So all we really know is what position they had. We don't know what position they've got right now. We also don't know what position they had during the quarter. There's also a problem with coverage. So you can't know what stocks people are holding outside US exchanges. It's only US publicly listed stocks that we know about, and it's only long positions that we know about. If they have a short position, which in Burry's case is quite likely, then we're not going to know about it. So really all we're seeing is the portfolio of Michael Burry through a kind of keyhole. So what is he doing? Well, for starters, he's buying more stocks. If we look at the total value of his holdings, those have increased hugely for the first quarter of 2023. Notice that the first two quarters of 2022, he had almost no long positions at all. Then he's gradually built them up, and now he's got about over $100 million in long positions. If you're wondering what the colors are on this bar chart, these are just individual stocks. There are just too many to label individually. So we know he's getting more bullish because he's buying stocks, but he's also got a very bullish sector composition. Beside me here, you can see the individual stocks which he's got in his portfolio, the ones that we can see, and the dollar amount of each stock which he held at the end of the first quarter. Now I've shaded each of the stocks according to the sector they belong to. And there are some really interesting sector choices here. These are not cautious choices. All of these are very risky sectors. For example, the two biggest holdings are Chinese stocks, really beaten up Chinese stocks. That's JD.com and Alibaba. He's also bought lots of financials, and these aren't the kind of JP Morgans of the world. No, these are the regional banks that have been really beaten up. And he's got a few tech stocks in there, and he's got some energy stocks. So not only is he bullish, he's also bullish on some of the most beaten up sectors which are also in big trouble. The banking crisis in the United States is probably not over yet, and yet that's one of his largest allocations. So if we break down his holdings according to those sectors, you can see that financials are his biggest allocation. They make up over a third of his portfolio. Consumer discretionary is also a cyclical sector because these are the kind of luxury purchases which these companies produce. If we are coming out of recession, this is the kind of sector which you'd buy. Energy also is a cyclical sector. As economic activity picks up, you'd expect energy prices to increase. So what it looks like to me, just looking at the sector composition, is that Michael Burry is expecting the recession and talk of recession to be overblown. And as he sees it, that's just depressing prices and presenting an opportunity. Now let's dig into his position in the financial sector. Here you can see the prices of the stocks which he's bought, which are financials, since the beginning of this year. Now we don't know precisely when he bought them or when he sold them, but you can see that certainly some of them have done pretty badly. In particular, First Republic Bank has now lost all of its value because the bank has failed. So we don't know whether he got out in time, but it's unlikely he made much of a profit on that stock. PacWest has also lost a lot of its value, although perhaps it will recover. There are only a few of these banks which have actually done okay. You can see New York Community Bancorp has actually started to rally quite a bit. It's up 27% year to date. And Capital One Financial also seems to be rallying. So if I had to describe this position and these stock choices, I'd describe it as very brave. In order to see value in this sector, you have to believe that the crisis is over and that secondary crises like those in commercial real estate, and I've made a video about that, are now finished. So we saw how Michael Burry is structuring his portfolio, but how should you structure yours? How much should you put into stocks, into bonds, into commodities? Well, that's called asset allocation, and we've got a course all about it. You can find all of our courses on our website, PensionCraft.com. Just go to the Learning Center and choose courses. And here's our asset allocation course. It's broken down into 5 modules, and it'll literally take you from knowing nothing about investing to being a fairly proficient asset allocator. Who knows, maybe you'll even give Michael Burry a run for his money. Also, you get 1 hour bundled in of free coaching with me one-to-one. So if you are interested, just go to our website, PensionCraft.com, to learn more. The 2 largest holdings in his portfolio are Chinese stocks. So if we look at that tree map again, and this time we'll look at percentages, so this is the percentage of his allocation in each of those stocks, or at least the bits we know about, China makes up just under 20% with those 2 positions in JD.com and Alibaba. If we look at the price of those 2 stocks over the course of this year, they haven't really turned around much yet. But they are trading at depressed multiples, perhaps for good reason, perhaps not. But clearly these are 2 stocks in which Michael Burry currently sees value. If we zoom out and look at a longer price history, you can see how much these stocks have fallen. They've lost about 3/4 of their value since their peak over the course of the last few years. Now, what's kind of interesting is that it's not just Michael Burry who've gone into this stock as SoftBank comes out. And some people think that SoftBank actually represents a kind of inverse signal, kind of like Jim Cramer. So if he sells, you should be buying. So perhaps this is one of the reasons why Michael Burry's buying. He's doing some kind of inverse SoftBank. But it's certainly true that other hedge funds are also buying these very unloved stocks, perhaps because they see value there. Now, we've just had the quarterly earnings published for JD.com, and it doesn't inspire confidence in the stock. The revenue growth is only 1.4% over the last year. That's probably the lowest it's ever been. Added to that, we've also got news that the CEO of JD.com is just about to leave to spend more time with his family. So far at least, it certainly hasn't shown up in the fundamentals that this is a turnaround story. The same's true of Alibaba, which seems to be struggling because it's behind the curve when it comes to marketing things via video. A lot of Chinese people decide to buy things when they watch their favorite social media star on TikTok. Here's an example you can see beside me where some guy's actually selling things like gold chains and rings, and he does that as people tune in to his TikTok channel. So while I kind of believe in the turnaround story for China, there will eventually be a return to growth, I think these stock choices are slightly odd because this e-commerce market in China is completely saturated. It has very narrow margins, and there are continual offers in order to get people to spend money, which make it even less profitable. If you have this round of endless promotions, it's not going to be very good for your margins. So I'm surprised he's gone into that sector, into those 2 stocks in such a concentrated position. He must have a lot of belief that those 2 stocks are a good way to play the China story. It's certainly true that valuations in China are very low at the moment, both for those 2 stocks and for the market as a whole. So if we look at the forward price to earnings ratio for MSCI China, you can see that it's well below that of India and way lower than the United States. And if we look at China's forward price to earnings multiple compared to its own history, it's also looking very cheap. However, if you do believe in that kind of reopening narrative and eventual recovery, then there aren't that many signs that that's been reflected in the equity market or in profits for Chinese companies yet. So maybe this is a very early play, maybe he's going to hold this position for a long time, but certainly at the moment, there's not much sign that it's working. Now let's look at his energy allocation. Again, this one's a bit surprising because if you look at energy prices right now, they're well off the peaks that we got after Russia invaded Ukraine. That's true of both oil prices, so West Texas Intermediate is in the upper panel here, and it's true of gas prices, natural gas, and that's in the bottom panel. So maybe he thinks there's going to be a secondary surge in these energy prices. That's certainly happened in the past. Maybe this winter there'll be shortages, maybe there'll be an escalation of the crisis, or maybe he just thinks that energy companies are at valuations which are too low. But certainly over the course of this year, his energy company choices haven't rallied that much. 3 of the stocks are really beaten up, so that includes Devon Energy, National Oil Well Varco, and Avintiv. Only one of them, Katerra Energy, has held its value and actually rallied a little bit over the course of this year. But this is a cyclical sector, so perhaps the thinking is that people have talked up the possibility of recession a little bit too much, and that's priced into these energy stocks a bit too much. And if that's true, then perhaps there is upside for them if demand from the US and from China starts to pick up over the course of the next few years. So while it is fascinating to be able to see what Michael Burry does and reverse engineer why he does what he does, I don't think it makes sense to slavishly copy his trades. Remember that his circumstances are very different from ours. So really DIY investing is about using people like him as inspiration, but we should always do our own research to find a portfolio that meets our circumstances and our risk appetite. And, as always, thank you for listening.